sure some of this. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to our online meetup for the Sea Haven. Folks are starting to trickle in, and we've got some progress to share. And Karen, you were showing us a little update of yours.
I was. I did get it off of the needles and put it on and blocked it. And now I'm working toward separating for the sleeves. So it's coming along.
Sure is, and it's looking really, really beautiful.
It's a really nice color. I do like the color a lot.
Kind of like the one you're wearing today, in fact.
Yeah. Yes, except this sweatshirt is not nearly as nice as the Sea Haven hopefully will be.
I mean, of course, just the color. Anybody else have some progress to share?
I'm at about the same point that Karen is working on to get to the point where I can separate for the sleeves.
Nice.
Such a pretty color.
So love it. That is a
Slow and
gorgeous,
steady.
gorgeous. Yeah, slow and steady. That's how it's been. I mean, I think one of the reasons why we wind down with our knit-alongs in spring is like spring is, we already are splitting our attention. There's outdoor stuff to do in the yard, and
Yeah.
then summer comes along and you know, people are coming and going, and
Well, my goal is to be able to wear this when I come to Maine in August and wear it to the shop.
yay! Oh my gosh, we will love seeing that. Good to see you, Shannon. How are you?
It's great to be here. I'm doing good, y'all. Yeah. And I went to my local shop and about the little mistake, the little dropped stitch.
Yep.
And she helped me pick it up and kind of so it still needs some repair work, but it's like it's picked up and it's hooked in so that now I can go back in and weave it in and do a little I think she called it a double stitch.
Duplicate stitch,
A
maybe?
duplicate stitch where
Mm.
there's kind of a gap, like it looks like I might have in that area I did something weird. And so yeah, there's a little bit of a hole even with the picking up the stitch that I dropped. So anyway, I think it'll be okay. I'm gonna try it, and I haven't. I kind of committed myself to it because I'm putting it back on needles now. So there you
Yep.
go.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. And I know, like, I was definitely wondering which way it was going to go for you. So I think it's going to be fine. There's a lot of irregularities and remind me of the yarn you're using again. Are you using the on the round?
Yes, on the round. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
So
it's got a various variation in the color. And
mhm.
I mean, I think
Yeah,
it'll be okay if I don't totally muck up the fix job. And if I do, well, okay, so I muck up the fix job. I'm learning.
I think it's likely that it will all come out just fine, and then you'll fix it. We'll duplicate stitch, and then you'll block it, and that will take care of some other things. So, yeah,
No, I like it. Yes, exactly.
we'll
Uh,
stay positive for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm staying positive.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I will show you that mine is done, and I pulled it off the blocking mat, and I decided I would weave in my ends while I was chatting with you folks and make that boring part go by a little quicker. And because it's a non-superwash yarn, I have fewer ends to weave in because I did the spit splicing, so that's nice.
Good. Very pretty.
Very, very happy with the fit. And this yarn, it's pretty great.
Wait, what did you do again? You did what? Splicing?
Spit splicing. It's it's a little like what it sounds. So if you've got a woolly wool yarn that is not superwash, this works. And essentially what you're doing is you can take two ends of your yarn, if you want to make a join. And I don't know, I'm not an expert on this, but I think I read somewhere sometime, and I have not fact checked this, I just do it this way, is that I kind of like pick apart the end of one a little bit and like try to fluff out the fibers a little bit. And even as I'm pulling it back, I don't know, I try to go down to maybe like just fluff it up around an inch down from the ends. And people can weigh in and tell me I am wrong about this, but I usually try to remove one of the little tufties from each of the sides so that then it won't be like two double stranded yarns on top. It'll be maybe closer and a little bit thinner than if you were to just do two together. So I pick off one from one end, or maybe two if it's a 4-ply, and one or two from the other end, and kind of try to then overlap these fuzzy bits like about that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spin in my hands and I do this. And so you're just like, and you can feel the friction. And it starts, I mean, I didn't spit in my hand on camera for this, but you can see how already, even without spit, like something is happening here. And these two yarns are trying to get together and felt themselves. So,
So that's what you do when you're joining, like adding yarn in the project. Oh, because, well, that's interesting because I didn't know about that. Learning new thing. Just be like when I added yarn. So usually when I join yarn, like I'll hold them together for 2 stitches just to get, or 2 or 3 stitches. But I feel like I'm hoping when it blocks out, I feel like on this, I use the same yarn as you. I feel like it shows, like you can, it's kind of bulky right there. I don't know. I feel like I can see it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe when I block it out, it'll look a bit different. But anyway, oh, sorry. There goes my dog.
That might happen here too when my husband comes home from work. But
anyway, I guess that's a good alternative.
It is. And then the other one that I have done, I guess I started doing it in the Sea Haven a little bit, where especially because that one fingering yarn and my yarn, like it just felt like I wanted to be a little careful with how I was joining, because I didn't want there to be a big lump. And so I started to do something, and maybe we talked about it on here last week, but like where if I'm approaching the beginning of the round, and I know at the beginning of the round I'm going to be using my second color, about 5 or 6 stitches before I get to that beginning of the round, I'll take my new color and I'll kind of, this is a technique a lot of people maybe know from color work, where you kind of loop that second color just behind. So I'm just like taking my second color and just draping it behind my working yarn, wrapping it. You're not seeing it, but I do that on like maybe 4 to 5 or 6 stitches. And then when I come up to my beginning of round, my new yarn is like right there, but it's also a little bit synced in already to the fabric. You get floppy, and yeah. So that's another one that was newer to me. I think also, if I'm remembering correctly, it's Stephen West who calls this something like weaving Stephen, like you go weaving as you go.
Gotcha.
So yeah, love
love
him. Okay. Anybody else have anything to add about the spit splice though? Like before we move on from that?
Yeah. I have one thing to add to it. That's just what I call like knitter's magic, and that you're adding like eye of newt, and it's like just add your spit and it all will be well.
and we probably also knit in our hairs as we're going. Exactly. It's impossible not to do that. So yeah, lots of witchy sorts of ways that we have with our fiber crafts. Anybody else have a little update for us? Let's give us a little show and tell. No pressure, but
I can.
nice.
So I, for the most part, have been able to focus on this project despite all the other
Woo!
ones calling me. So I'm working on the hem right now, and then shortly I'll be able to start the sleeves. So coming along.
Amazing. So great. So, so great.
Which is not to say I haven't started other projects in the past week, but
Yes. So tell us more. What else are you knitting on?
yeah, I started my Stephen West yarn along shawl, so that one's fun, but I have to finish this hem before I can go back to that.
And so tell me, is that like a mystery one or you have the pattern already?
Yeah, I have the whole pattern already. It's just that it's like a 3 month thing. You get a box of yarn every month and a shawl pattern that goes with it. So I actually have already gotten the second box of yarn, but I won't get the pattern for that until the beginning of June.
Exciting. Ooh, I love that. I love the surprise of that.
Yep. Uh,
She,
it is what I decided to do with some of my bonus money this year.
that sounds fabulous. Great way to use bonus money. Did you get to put in any like details about your color preferences or anything, or it's just like complete surprise?
Yep, complete surprise what the yarn is, what the pattern is. But
Gosh, I love that.
I just figured,
And then
if I don't like the pattern or the yarn, okay, great, it's a gift.
it's a gift. Love it. A gift to yourself, the best. And the Kate Davies Mystery Knit Along starting. I think we get our first clue tomorrow.
I think it came out this morning, actually.
Well, so I looked a couple times in my Ravelry this morning and I was not seeing an update. I'll have to look again. Maybe I just missed it. Maybe because I read the email and then I checked and then it wasn't there yet. So I'm really eager because I don't, so hard to know like how the colors I picked, if they're like really gonna work. I mean, I like them together, so hopefully.
That sounded so fun. And I went and I thought about signing up and thought about it. And then I said, I'll do it. And I was a day late, which is
Ah,
fine.
dang it.
But I picked out a book from the library anyway. The Allingham, is that her name? So I thought, well, I'll just read one of the books anyway. So that's fun.
Now, how does something like that work?
So this is interesting, and I was she mentioned it in our meetup with her, and I have never done a mystery knit along with her, so I've only done this is only my second mystery knit along, but she decided that she wanted to do a mystery kind of knit along and like mystery focused sort of book club around one of her favorite
Oh,
authors, Marjorie Allingham, who's like golden age of like British crime writer, kind of Agatha Christie era.
okay.
And I mean, I think I knew of her, but definitely maybe I read something a million years ago, but hadn't revisited this author. So so Kate's writing, she's such a researcher and scholar. So she's writing a bunch of essays to accompany this 3 month long experience. So there's sort of a suggested book list of like, Marjorie Allingham's various works in the sort of order that chronological roughly, but like not every book. And they're kind of shortish. They're not terribly long. And of course, she's like, and you don't have to feel like you have to read every single one. Great. And then she's providing sort of some essays that relate to sort of the time, the context about the book, giving you some background and visuals and talking about some of the social issues of the time and about the author. And then I think it's 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, we get a clue for the shawl project. So
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, really different and kind of interesting. And I really respect Kate. So I'm like, well, I'm along for the ride. So it'll be fun.
So
Sounds fun.
what does a clue for a shawl look like? Is that just something that how I don't understand how what the concept is there.
Well, I haven't seen it yet, but like with generally with these mystery knit alongs, is you get like the first part of you'll be told this uses a fingering weight yarn, choose 5 yarns, a light, a dark, two mid grain, and a pop or whatever. And so you have that part and yardage, and you have a suggested gauge. And then however often, you'll get this clue that's essentially a section of the pattern.
Hmm.
And so you don't go into it knowing like, well, what is this shawl gonna look like? How do the colors play? Like if I choose, especially with the two mid colors, I'm like, I don't know which one I should have be color B or color C or whatever, but you just sort of have a little faith. And I mean, Stephen West does a mystery sock knit along in the summer usually. I did one of his last year, but it's kind of neat because you're just like, well, I have my little instructions. And if you're sort of a type A person, like maybe some of us are, you're like, oh, I have my assignment. I'm going to get my clue finished. Teresa, have you done other mystery knit alongs before?
This is my second. I just did the 24 birds shawl the other month.
Right.
That's
right.
So
cool.
Sounds
but
fun.
I was very much the okay, now I gotta get my clue done kind of person, though I saved the first couple of clues for when I was traveling.
Cool.
I like a
Anybody else have
deadline.
a deadline? Yes, a deadline is fun. And then there's this part of me that's like, I don't want to get behind, like who cares? But anybody else have any Sea Haven updates or questions or thoughts?
Well, I'll bring this up again, just around the sizing. Since I've taken it off once and done the blocking and had the mistake and all of that, I'm disinclined to take it off again to measure it further down after you get the inches of the stockinette stitch on the yoke. Did anybody else just go for it? Like, or,
Yeah, I definitely think there were people that just went for it.
I'm not going to take it off again. And I have to say, I've never used a barber cord before. And I borrowed one from one of my knitting friends, and it was 60 inches long. It was not long enough. And thankfully, this is acrylic yarn. So I wasn't sure that I really even needed to block it, but I wanted to do that because that's what the pattern was. I'm trying to learn. So I got it all wet, and it was on the 60-inch barber cord. I couldn't even spread it all the way out. So I sort of spread out half of it and pinned it. And then after that dried, I spritzed the other half and pinned it. And it didn't really seem to make much difference. You never could have gotten away with that with a wool yarn, but because it's pure acrylic. But I got it back on the needles, and I'm like, I'm not going to take it off again. But I got to say, I would just use yarn. And I wish that I had just used yarn. But so not a great experience with a barber cord. If it had been 80 inches long, I think it would have been fine, but 60 wasn't long enough.
That is definitely what we were finding, and why the by the foot concept came kind of just in time for this, because that was definitely, I'm sorry that it wasn't a good experience. That's a bummer though.
Yeah, and I wasn't quite sure how to what the method is when you put the stitches onto the barber cord. Like you can't thread it through a needle because that doesn't work. How do you do that? I just sort of stuck the end of it on the end of the needle, and that worked.
That's the way. That's how we do it.
That's
Yep.
the way. Okay.
Just jam it right on there, and it, it's sort of like somebody was saying, I find it awkward because I'm always worried I'm gonna like pop it off, and it's sort
Yeah.
of funny. Like my hands kind of do this funny little like squish, squish, flip, squish. I don't know. I can't even describe what it is, but it is a little bit of a, excuse me, and also depending on the yarn, and the needles, I think the material of the needles can make a difference too.
I will just say I had some embroidery thread, and I find that worked really well for instead of the barber cord, since I didn't have one to hand, and it's nice and slippy and smooth, and it doesn't and it's thin, and I mean that thin is kind of a good and a bad part both. So, but anyway,
that's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
You just want something smooth, and I think it helps to have something a little bit thinner.
Yeah, thinner than your yarn.
What you're working with. Yep. There's Wendy. Hi, Wendy.
I've just been gardening. Sorry, I'm sweaty and messy.
Well, we were talking about how, there's so many things that are pulling on our attention these days, and in spring, the garden, and then there's all the knitting projects we want to be doing.
And
how's your Sea Haven coming, Wendy?
Well, it's gonna come after I finish my Scudic Bay that I'm just
awesome.
Yes, I'm not gonna start it until I finish this. So I have several yarns picked out for it. One of them is Life in the Tall Grass or Life in the Long Grass. Have you ever seen that? It's Irish.
Yeah.
It's
yes,
so
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it. I think I saw it at Rhinebeck.
It's a lovely soft yarn. So did you already have the show? Did I miss the show?
Which show?
The show of all the finished ones?
Oh, well, so this isn't our last meetup. We still have a little bit more. So
okay.
So that is definitely one thing I want to ask people, though, is because I want to do a slideshow, and because maybe we're done, maybe we're not, but just in the coming newsletters, there will be the plea for, send in a process picture or a finished picture or whatever it is you have. And it's just so fun to see them all kind of different yarns, different shapes. So yeah.
Is next week the last Zoom, or is it the week after that?
I think it's the week after, because we started a week later than the in-person ones. So just to make sure so I think it is, what did I say? The 29th will be the last one. So we've got time.
As I said, love a dead.
Well, getting all geared up in the shop for the Spring is Blooming this weekend, which you probably all saw in your emails. So that's fun. Yarn sale and making room with some new yarns heading into clearance. So it's fun because, we've also been, the other part is we've been meeting with all these yarn reps about the fall yarns and everything. And we had another visit this week from our, knitting fever rep, and she is like she has Noro and June for Moon, and I'm blanking right now, but it's so much fun to think ahead. But then it's like, well, got to think about what we can move along. So there will be some good stuff on sale and some books, I think, too. Oops, geez, sorry. Okay, put the dog in and put on my sweater. Yay!
Yay. Yay.
So I think
It's really pretty.
Yeah.
Great.
That is
Yep.
nice.
Feels really, really nice on this. It's just very soft. I like how it fits.
Very pretty.
Yeah, it's still kind of a scoopy, and not a scoop neck, but the neck you have you put on the neck trim,
I
didn't you?
did. Yep.
And it's still a pretty
Wait.
good opening.
Opening, not too tight, not doesn't go up too high.
Yeah. Sweet.
I know some people that find with some of the Andrea Mowry sweaters that the neckline is a little high on those ones. But I'm so excited I'll be able to wear it on Sunday.
Good. Mm.
Do people tend to knit less in the summertime or hotter weather, or is it just maybe smaller projects?
I knit less because typically during the summer, I'm working on a costume for a Mardi Gras group I'm in, which is always a real struggle for me because I want to be knitting. But the Mardi Gras costume every year are y'all familiar with the tiny little seed beads that you can make jewelry out of? So we essentially bead an image. We have a new theme that we wear on the front of it's a corset, but we're clothed. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we attach it to the front of that. So it's about a 6-month project to do because it's about 200 hours worth of. For me, it's about that long. Like I commit an hour a day to it to get it finished in time for for Mardi Gras.
Oh my gosh. So like literally I mean, I don't so you're beading an image, right? And so you have a pattern, or is it like
Yeah, so we get a new theme. There's an overall theme. So last year, what was it even last year? What was I last year? Gosh, I've done a few. And Paul, what did I bead last year? Okay, there. Oh, that's right. Last year it was Southern Nights. So the overall theme was anything you can do from dusk till dawn. And then everyone, there's are about 60 of us, we choose like a sub theme. So mine was the lucky dog cart. That's something you find down in the French Quarter, and you know, on any given Southern night, you can find yourself eating a hot dog at midnight, you know. So anyway, that was like one of them. And so I find an image off the internet, or have a graphic artist, you know, design one, or whatever, and then you have it printed onto fabric through. I use spoon flour, and then so it comes in, and essentially you're just, instead of painting by number, you're beading by number, but you're hand sewing these beads on, you know, to this. It takes a hot minute. Yeah, I thought about sitting it out this year, and I chose not to. So I paid the dues thinking I was going to have a little time, because we just, our theme, and it's a secret theme. Like we're not allowed to announce the theme until 12th night. But anyway, turns out I'm first up. We're in a randomizer. I'm like, whoa, I didn't want to be first up, because you want to see what other people are doing, like kind of where is this going? Like what I have in mind is that the vision that the, you know, the leaders of the group. So anyway, I have 48 hours to choose. I'm a little stressed about that. But that's, yeah. So that's what I do in the summer.
that's amazing. I knew nothing about that. That's
I'll have
super
to try
cool.
For the next Zoom, or in a minute, or when I'm, you know, I'll go try to find one, and I can hold it up for y'all to see.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'll go grab one.
Yeah, I would love to see some other fiber arts here. I've got to now let the dog out onto the porch again, because she's in and out. All right. Are you going to be out here and not be barking? Come here. Okay, lie down. How about other people in terms of like summer crafty, or maybe not taking a break?
Nope, I knit all year round. And not whatever I happen to be knitting. I don't really go for smaller thing, and because it's summertime, but I just knit every day pretty much.
Me too.
I might switch up like do more cotton yarns in the summer, like more lightweight yarns, and like heavier wool, and like even like more fingering stuff versus like worsted or bulky, so it's not all sitting in your lap.
Makes sense.
A few years ago, I knit a blanket. My sister's birthday is in October, so I knit a blanket for her throughout the summer. It was 2020, because it was the first COVID summer, and it was knit in strips. So they were, I don't know, 6-8 inches wide, maybe. So it was smaller because it was long, but it was just a skinnier strip. And then so you knit all the strips and then sewed them all together. And so that was a really good summer project.
Modular knitting on the go, right?
Yes, that's right.
All right.
Okay, here she is with them show and tell.
Are y'all able to see that? Are you able to see it? So
my goodness.
That's a lucky dog cart. That's what I did last year. So we wear it like on our front like that, and then we have to do a headpiece, and then we do a bustle where so on my back, I had beaded the words lucky dog, and then you come up with like a bustle. And the one I did the year before, I've got like 5 of these. I just brought out 2. This is one of my favorites. So the year before we did
wow.
Look at that.
Mardi Gras, we did Mardi Gras cruise. And so I did the crew of Pontchartrain. And anyway, this is like their logo. And I had a lot of fun with this one. I prefer like large graphic. This is very striking when you're out on a Mardi Gras route, people from a distance. You know, this one has a ton of detail. I mean, this little man right there, he's got a little cigarette hanging out of his mouth, but you know, if you're not up on it, you're not gonna see it. Do you know what I mean? So so anyway, it takes a lot of time.
Oh my God, that is amazing. And so like, are you having like special lights? And I mean, how are you? Wow. What does this all look like?
Well, we parade during the day. So is that what you mean? So like
Well, I was even thinking about like working with your beads, you know,
oh,
like
yeah,
like
right
you've got like
here.
a studio
Yeah.
situation.
I have
Wow.
this. Are you able to see it? This LED
Yeah.
light, and I have to have that.
And you have like a zillion, I mean, like I'm just trying to picture all the beads and all the colors, or are you kind of
Yeah,
like
how do you
making
do
your
that?
Yes, there are a lot of bead spills, but like I have little containers, like I have these little bowls, and I'll put this color here, and so whatever section I'm working on, I'll make sure to have just those colors out. And I mean, it's a process, and there are dames in the group who can sit down on a Saturday and bead for like 8 hours. I can't do that. It wrecks my back. Because you're like getting, you know, it's stretched. It's I usually stretch mine on a wooden frame, like a canvas frame that I've cut the canvas out and just staple it on there. So you're getting in all these like tricky spots to turn it this way because you want the beads to flow this way or whatever, you know. It's definitely a process. I've come a long way since I first started. But I will say I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I kept sticking myself last year. So for some reason, I just ended up bleeding a lot from my needles. And I'm like, I don't bleed when I knit. Like, but here I am. I'm going to try to figure out a way to balance the knitting with the beading this summer because it's easy to burn out too. You know, so that's that.
That was a
Can't
very
wait till
cool
I
little.
can tell y'all what I'm doing this year.
Yeah, definitely. You'll have to fill us in. That is so amazing. It's so
Thank
fun to
you.
learn about these other crafts. And I mean, I guess also just the way, you know, you have to think about color with beads, you know, it's interesting.
For
When we do
sure.
color work knitting, you know, it's a whole other thing from a pattern, but color work with beads, wow.
You'd be amazed at what's out there. It's crazy. I have probably 20 shades of red. Opaque red, silver line red, opaque dark red, matte dark red. I mean, it's crazy. And they all look different. You know, there's all the very subtle differences. So, yeah. Thanks for asking, though. Happy to share.
Yeah, love that. Never know what you're going to learn on these Zooms.
Yeah, that was very cool. Thank you, Susan. That was just, I mean, I had no idea. And you don't even know really when you're, I mean, standing by at a parade, what's gone into the whole business and that that's incredible. And I love that Pontchartrain one. Beautiful, beautiful,
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
I will just say also that since I'm just kind of coming back into knitting, I think I was knitting on a scarf last summer. But I'm hearing so many as I rejoin the knitting community of people who have, oh, oh, ongoing projects. Okay. So you don't just knit one thing and then move on to the other. You're not, what do they call that, serial monogamy, serial, with your knitting. You got like, oh, I got all kinds of knitting going on here. So yeah, I'm down with that. I think it sounds really, really great. So I plan on knitting this summer. Definitely.
Yeah, I almost
Well,
always have 3 projects going at once. Usually one that's like right now I'm working on an Afghan that's been underway for probably 2 or 3 years. And I get tired of it, put it away, get it back out. Then I usually knitting, so I do a lot of baby knits and usually donate those to a local hospital. So usually doing some of that and then something like this, like a sweater, which I had never done till this year. Thanks to Iris and Cashmere Go. Got me going on this sweater business. And I
so
am
good.
hoping, I live down the coast in Yarmouth, so I am hoping to get to Camden this summer so I can come visit.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to be doing our finish along meetups on Sundays in person. So if it happened to be a Sunday, I don't know what our hours for that will be, but that will be definitely coming out probably in the next week or so. We're going to decide, but that'll be fun to actually knit with
Cool.
you in
Yeah.
person.
I'll watch my email. The emails
Mm.
are great.
Aw, awesome. Well, so I talked myself right into knitting one of those heads, those shorty socks. I think I mentioned it last week. So I did the Laura Nelkin pattern, and so it's got this sort of short. Actually, I should probably have gotten it, but it's in the other room. But so it you use short you it's a top down. Usually I like a toe up sock, but it's a top down, and you're doing short rows that kind of raise the hem on the back of your heel. So the shape is sort of like this little like goes up a little bit, and then it's folded in. So it's sort of a double thickness right there, just sort of above that ankle area that kind of sits on the back of your shoe. And it's a fun little pattern. There were some fun quirks to it. I really enjoyed like figuring out, okay, yeah, right, short rows, that works. And then, you kind of have put in a wrong side row of knitting so that it'll flip, in on itself with that folded hem kind of thing. And she's got some neat techniques. There was one for, I guess she really hates picking up stitches along the heel flap. And so she has devised this new method, which I will be honest with you, I'm like, I don't really hate picking up heel flap stitches quite as much as you, Laura. This looks a little bit fussy to me. But I think if you hate picking up heel flap stitches, it's cool. It's basically like you take another circular needle on the heel flap and you sort of wrap your yarn around, like here's the point of that circular needle, and if I'm at the beginning of my round, I'm like and it seems just awkward at the beginning no matter what you do, but you're sort of adding a wrap around that needle and then doing your slip one, knit one across. Oh no, here comes the husband. Hold on, let me just see if she'll be quiet. So, and then on the other side of the flap, it's the same sort of thing. So it just seems sort of weird because you're building the flap and you're adding these wraps around either side, which, I mean, the great part is you can see how those wraps would turn into those heel flap stitches on the side. So you're not having to pick them up anyway. I didn't do it, but it seems like a cool thing to explore. The thing that I did try for the first time was the Finchley graft. Anybody else tried that at the toe?
No.
Well, that was freaking cool. I'm gonna write it down and add it to our little list of links down below. So I watched a video from Roxanne Richardson. She does great tutorials on YouTube, and she, I think, was the person who discovered this grafting technique in like maybe a machine knitting manual year from like ages ago, and she's like stumbled upon this, and I think wrapped her mind around how to translate it into a sock toe and how it could be good for hand knitting. And essentially, if you picture you're up at your sock toe and you actually turn it inside out, so you've got your right sides facing, and it's to my mind a lot of, it's an easier way, it's easier because you know with Kitchener, where if you get interrupted mid Kitchener stitch, like forget it, you might as well take the whole thing out. This, and I loved it because in the Roxanne video she talked exactly to this point, so it's there's a little bit of a fail safe built in, because essentially what you're doing is you take one stitch off the front, you know, put your needle in the front stitch, first stitch on the on your front needle, and then same thing, go from the front to the back through the stitch on your back needle, and then you slip the back one off. Then you come from the back, off the back needle, pick up the stitch from the back, and then pick up the stitch from the front from the back direction, and then you slip the one off the front. And she said the great part is like if you forget where you are, you can see where your yarn is coming out of, and you can kind of know what to do. And it's awkward because I'm showing with my hands, but I thought that was definitely something I would do again. It just seemed really intuitive, and like, yeah, if you get interrupted, you know what's going on. And the result was like identical from the outside. I didn't notice any difference in the look of the finished toe. Finishly graphed. Always new things to learn.
I've never made socks, and I'm wondering if that's like knitting 101, or has everybody made socks, or is that sort of still, you know, a choice? Like, is that something that's like, it's a good thing to learn how to make socks? Is it?
Well, it's a fun thing to wear handmade socks. And if you, you know, that part, once you've worn a pair of your own handmade socks, I think it's a cool thing to know how to do. And there's so many, like with all things knitting, there's so many different ways to do it. So, you know, I started out on 4 double pointed needles because I'd never heard of a short circular back then, or the magic loop back then, you know. So there's lots of entry points, and so kind of there's some fun techniques to learn. And the first time you make a sock, you're like, how is this even going to work out? You know, like, what am I doing right now? What is the instep really? I don't know. What is this? What am I doing along the heel? So I think it can be a little bit of a awkward thing at the beginning, of course, but then once you know the form and you're familiar with some of the techniques, you know, like a lot of, well, my first sock pattern was the good old Yankee knitter sock pattern. It came in like 3 weights of yarn for the whole family, so it's very easy, written for double points. And you know, then now I've explored like the toe up version, which I kind of like. It's very interesting to think about sizing socks, because like you really, for a sock to fit well, you need a little bit of negative ease, so you need to make it a little bit shorter than the, you know, and if you measure your full foot, you're, you know, you might be like a half an inch shorter because there will be stretch in that yarn, and thinking about measuring the circumference of your foot and all that stuff. So it's just an interesting piece of your body to fit a knitted garment around, but it is a little bit fun and addictive. And I think sock yarn is one of those things that you can pick up a skein here or there, and maybe some mini skeins along the way if you like it. But you don't have to, right?
Yeah, thank you. That's great to hear. Yeah, appreciate it.
I'm doing a class now that's toe up socks 2 at a time. So you do them on the magic loop, and you do this funky cast on. I can't remember the name of it even, but it's self-striping yarn by Vesper. So you have the stripes and you match them, and it's fun. It's fun. You have to wind the yarn and count how many stripes of this color you have and that color you have, and then get them separated. So I usually do top down, but this time I'm trying the toe up. So yeah. But that
The first time you do that Turkish cast on for the toe up, your mind is blown. You're like, what just happened? I started with some loops. How did this even make a thing? Yeah.
it is. It's crazy. Yeah. But they're good little projects to carry with you to the office or in the car or somewhere.
Yep. And then there's also so many interesting ways that you can make it a sock heel, and actually what I now understand is like some heels fit some feet better, and there's some fun trial and error, but it's interesting. And the thing about it is there's enough going on that I don't think it's a boring project. The only problem is the second sock syndrome. Sometimes there's always is that moment of like, oh, okay, now I've got to do the second one. Okay.
I don't knit socks for that exact reason. And then somebody said that, well, you can do two at a time. So I bought the book and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I was too busy knitting other things. So I've never gotten into the socks. And one of my knitting friends, she's a very good knitter, she did socks where you knit one inside the other, but you knit them at the same time. And she blew all of our minds. And we're like, well, wait, what? So she's trying to show us, well, you do this, then you do this. And the whole group was like, couldn't even wrap my head around that at all. So no, I've never gotten into the whole sock thing. I do have sock yarn though. You can do a lot of things with sock yarn.
Wendy, how are you finding the two at a time? How is the technique for
Well,
you?
the first part where you did all the increases, I had to do both of them separately. And so then once I finally got to that point and had them at the same, then I could get them on the needle and say it's really neat because you just mark which one's the front on each one and you go down. I mean, I'm sure you've done it before. I think it's so much easier than trying to do one and do the other. Plus they're exactly the same size, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's neat. That would be
yeah.
Maybe one day I will try that. Maybe.
Well, I'm not at the sleeves yet, but I did have a question about the sleeves coming up. Well, mostly just about like how people are making them. The only time I've used the magic loop is for doing the swatch in the round. And I I can't imagine how you do that with a sleeve, but is that like do people use how are people doing the sleeves if you've done them?
Anybody want to weigh in or have done sleeves or have a plan for doing sleeves?
Mine's going to have the short sleeves, so that doesn't require a lot of sleeve knitting.
Mine is going to be, I'm going to do the short sleeves too. So
I'm not to that point yet, so I can't speak to it.
You can always wait until next week.
I did a combination of magic loop for the cuff because I didn't have anything small enough. So I just used one of my interchangeable needles in the right size with a long cable. And then I tried those flexi flips for the sleeve, which that was a new needle type to me for a small circumference knitting. So it's a hold on, let me go get it. I can still hear you guys, but I'll go grab them. Oh shoot. Nope, I can't grab them. Oh, I'm so silly. Here's why I can't grab them. I can't grab them because I lent them to a knitter in the shop who had me. She was in yesterday, and I was saying how much I enjoyed them, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I might want to try those." And she's like, "Oh, they're size 7. Oh, that's actually the size that I would need." And I was like, "Well, I'm done with my sleeves, so you can borrow them." Anyway, the flexi flips are they are like if you picture two metal needle tips with a little tiny cable that connects them. And so the result is that you have almost like a double, a double point needle length-ish that then has a nice flexible middle part. So I think of them, they're made by Addy Turbo. They have one end that's a little more pointy and one end that's a little less pointy. They come in a set of 3 because, yes, there you go, Wendy. Yes, Wendy's got them. Yay. Yep. So the set of 3, and then so your knitting is on almost like you were knitting with 2 long circular needles. So you've got half on one and half on the other, and then the third one is the one that you're working with. What do you think about them, Wendy?
I really like them. Yeah, I got them originally, I think it was for socks, and then I did one of those gnome knit-alongs where you make the teeniest, tiniest things. But no, I like them a lot. Yeah, I really do for small circumferences.
I
Yeah.
actually loved them. I was sort of like, well, I should try it so I can talk to people about it. And it turned out I really found them comfortable. Um, to me, it was less fussy than Magic Loop, where you're constantly having to move stuff around. I also felt like, because I've also in the past used a small circumference circular needle, like a 9 or a 12. And I don't know, something about that made me feel like I was having to hoist my whole sweater around, because whereas with this one I felt like I could knit along to the one side of the needle and kind of twist my sleeve and not have to hoist the whole sweater around. And maybe that was also just because the car bath was the one that I used my short needle on, and that's a lot of a heavier sweater, so the yarn was heavier, so maybe the stitches were tighter. So I just, yeah, anyway, yeah, that's my new fave, actually, the flexis.
Could you say, what are they called again?
Flexi flips.
Flexi flips.
Yep.
Great. Cool. Thank you.
They're pricey. They are pricey.
Yeah, I bet they are. They're
I can find it on the website just so you can see what they look like, and I can check the price too on there.
26 are the ones I have.
Mm-hmm.
They're all about that. But they are great. They're good for socks.
Mm-hmm.
Or even finishing hats up or anything like that.
Yeah. Yep, 26.
Is there a video out there on how to use them?
There must be. I haven't made a video about it yet, but that is another good idea for a video.
Sorry. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I
I
like
felt like it
double
just,
points, but easier because they're not rigid. Yeah.
yes, and it was like the way
so
that I could like a
double.
double point, but the way it sort of sat in my hand felt just very natural, very comfortable.
Okay.
Well, I just looked in my Ravelry and I can see my Goth Place mystery knit along clue. We know what I'll be doing tonight.
I have yarn I had got to make summer sweaters, and one of them was the Ella Ray Cashmerino and the Lanello. And then when I was looking on Ravelry, what popped up was you and your beautiful Lanello anchor sweater with all your pictures. Must have been your husband and your son or something. It was like the whole family. It was so
the
fun.
whole family.
Yes, yes. And I said, oh, that's right. I felt it seems like so long ago. I had forgotten I bought the Lanello for that. So it may turn into an anchor or degradé. Was that the other one you were? How do you, the Barocco pattern?
Yes. Oh gosh. Oh, I was just thinking of that. It was not the degradé. Derecho. Derecho.
Derecho, yes. Yes.
Who's our furry visitor here, Shannon?
This is Gilda. She's a 50-pound lap dog. Standard poodle. And here's her buddy who wants to play, Molly. Two black poodles, hard to tell them apart, but oh, except for that Molly doesn't like to be on the lap and Gilda does.
So they won the Westminster. Did you see the poodle?
Did they? Oh,
yes, the standard black poodle, which was on GMA this morning.
Oh my gosh.
Retiring now, though.
Well, make sure Gilda and Molly hear about this because representation matters. Like to see it.
Yes, they're gonna demand a grooming.
I love that she's a lap dog.
Oh my gosh. And then, if something happens and there's a noise that really startles her, she launches off your lap, and then there's bruising and all the rest of it.
Oh no.
She's not, she's not really a good fit, but what can you do? A lap dog is a great thing.
So sweet. Well, here we are up at the top of the hour again, which is awesome. So yeah, we will have one more next week meetup, and then the week after will be our finale. So as you're working on your Sea Havens, if you want to think about snapping pictures, process pictures are fine, and email them my way. But so nice to spend the hour with all of you, and thanks for helping me finish my weaving in of my ends. Made it a lot more enjoyable.
It's a perfect fit. You did a great job.
Yeah, it does look really nice.
It's very light, and it's a little bit warmer today than it's been, but I'm not hot. And I definitely have this over my t-shirt and it's pretty comfortable.
Good.
All right. Well, happy knitting, everybody. Happy with your Sea Haven, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.